Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Willie, and this is the encouraging word for today. I believe very strongly that the closer you and I get to Jesus as we follow him, the more the enemy, Satan, and his demons will attack us. And one of the keys to defeating Satan is to have other people in your life who can pray with you, can hold your hands up in prayer, and then you defeat Satan, to encourage you, to speak a word to you, to be with you in trial and temptation. So it's key, because isolation is a strategy of Satan. Just think about it. Jesus was in the wilderness alone. Then Satan came. It's a strategy. Attack when someone is alone. Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane. He wanted the disciples to pray with him. He knew he would be helped by that. Their presence, just their presence, would have encouraged him, strengthened him. Yet he was alone, and Satan was tempting him. Think about the Apostle John at the end of his life on the island of Patmos, alone. Go through the Old Testament. Many of the great leaders, such as Moses, were alone at times. When we're alone, we're more vulnerable to Satan's attacks. And typically, Satan will attack in those times. He knows we're at a weak time, we're alone. Paul is at the end of his life, and he's alone. Read the book of 2 Timothy in the last part of the last chapter 4. He's alone. He always worked with a team around him. He had brothers and sisters. He had fellow workers, co-workers. He had people he was mentoring. Paul was never alone, always working with others. And it gave him strength. But now he's been locked up. He's facing execution. Alexander the metalworker, he said a few verses earlier than our verses for today. He says, Alexander the metalworker has done me great harm. He's left. And probably he was the one that betrayed him to be arrested. And others have left him. He's alone. Now listen to what he said, because this is key. Because you and I will end in situations at times where we are alone. And we can learn a lot from the Apostle Paul. This is what he says in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 16 and 17. At my first defense, no one came to my support, but everyone deserted me. May it not be held against them. But the Lord stood at my side and gave me strength, so that through me the message might be fully proclaimed and all the Gentiles might hear it. And I was delivered from the lion's mouth. Amazing, right? Who do you think the lion's mouth is? The lion's mouth is Satan. He's referring to Satan. He was delivered from Satan's temptation when he was alone. And here's what he did. First, he makes clear, at his first defense, so he's on trial. He's probably before Caesar. He's going to be executed. But no one came to support him. And he was dangerous. If you would be seen supporting him, you were going to be the next one to have your head cut off. So everybody deserted him, as he says. So that's his situation, alone. And the lion, he's referring to Satan as the lion, is tempting him, is attacking him. He's alone and vulnerable. Now, the first thing to remember is that Satan will attack us with bitterness. When we're alone, we can tend to become angry, which is an emotion. Why has everyone deserted me? Why am I alone? But Satan turns that to resentment, and resentment becomes bitterness, and that becomes hate, and we become defiled. So that's a temptation, a very subtle temptation. Everyone has the normal emotion of anger. People desert you, you're angry. But Satan seeks to have that become hatred and bitterness, resentment. Okay, so that's the attack of Satan. And when we are bitter and angry, the door for his attack opens wider. Paul doesn't take that road. Nobody supported him. Everybody deserted him. But the very next thing he says is, may it not be held against them. That's forgiveness, demonstrating forgiveness. Jesus can't work, can't defend us, can't be helping us in a time of temptation if we have unforgiveness in our heart. Unforgiveness will hinder our protection, our divine protection from God. It'll hinder it if we have unforgiveness. That's a door we must close. It's a temptation. We don't realize it's a temptation. It seems normal not to forgive them. After all, they hurt me. But when we forgive them for abandoning us, when we forgive the people for not supporting us when we needed support, we close that door, and Satan can't get in through bitterness. So he does that. He says, may it not be held against. He releases it. So I'm not going to hold it against them. May it not be held. Forgive them, God. Then he says, but. All right, so nobody stood with him, but the Lord stood at my side and gave me strength. Listen, when you are all alone, you are not all alone. Jesus will be stronger with you when you are alone. His presence will be stronger. You'll feel it. You'll sense it. And he will give you the strength you need for whatever that situation is. Paul was facing execution alone, and God gave him the strength, supernatural strength, to face execution alone. I can't even conceive of that kind of situation because I'm not in that situation. But if I end up in that situation, Jesus himself will give me that strength. Hebrews 13:5, it says, because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. No matter what happens, God will never leave you alone. He will never take his hands off of you. And he will be there stronger in your life when you need it the most. Isaiah 49:15, he says, though your mother abandon you, I will still be with you. When you go through the fire, think about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They're in the fire. Jesus was there with them. The water, when you're in the waters, Jesus will be there with you. You'll never be alone. He will always give you strength that you need for every situation. So those are two promises, and it keeps the door to Satan closed. Forgive, and Jesus will be with you, and he will give you the strength. And then you and I, just as Paul did, can face any situation that Satan throws at us. God bless you, and I will see you tomorrow.